was talking about the fact that people with disability have extraordinary creativity in navigating daily challenges in life. The challenges that other people face in life, it's, you know, institutionally and in terms of how things are put together, everything is in place for them. But you have to come up with innovative leadership approaches to deal with everyday challenges, every day of your life. You're dealing with personal experiences. You are also dealing with issues of empathy and how you can enable more inclusive and collaborative leadership styles. You are constantly overcoming persistent barriers. And over time, most of you have built up remarkable determination and resilience, essential qualities for overcoming obstacles in leadership roles. In terms of your perspective, your unique life experiences give you a fresh viewpoint to problem solving, enriching decision-making processes and outcomes. So in each one of you, you have a level of untapped leadership potential that is there. The issue is that how do we access that untapped leadership potential? How do we unleash it? And then how do we make it something that will change the environment and change yourself? Now, let's look at some inspirational leaders with disability to kind of like, you know, ginger you, as we say in Nigeria. Richard Nyama is wheelchair bound. And over the years, he has become a political strategist who has overcome his mobility challenges to become influential in governance reforms in Ghana. In his early days, he faced significant discrimination in education and political environment, but he was determined and he has led major political campaigns that have public around inclusiveness. He pioneered accessibility reforms in Ghana voting systems to ensure equal participation. And what that meant was that anybody, anywhere in Ghana, in any area, if they had challenges with accessibility, when there was voting, they had to provide them the access for them to be able to vote. And in the process, that reform spread to the whole of Ghana, where anywhere you go in Ghana now, most hotels, shopping malls, everywhere, they have access for people with disability. His impact has mentored dozens of young people who, as a result, have entered public service, and he is instrumental in passing legislation protecting rights of people with disabilities in Ghana. Then we have Louis Auta, who overcame polio to become the founder of Cedar Seed Foundation, where he transformed his personal challenge, the challenges that he had as a human being, as a person with disability, he turned it into a platform for change. He started championing education initiatives across Nigeria and created scholarship programs for disabled youth, engendering a lot of support from local and international organizations. He ran for political office to represent marginalized voices. He's also recognized internationally as a disability rights advocate, and he speaks at global forums on inclusive development all over the world. But let's look at the cornerstone of empowerment for people with disability. And the first cornerstone has to be, we need to come together and ensure, together and individually, that there's access to quality education, which forms the cornerstone of empowerment for people with disability. And I'm not talking about people only in the urban centers. I'm talking about people with disability who live in the most far-flung areas of Africa. We have to ensure that they get basic literacy, basic arithmetic. And then we need to move on to ensure that they are able to access personalized special training so that each level of education builds capacity for self-development and leadership. Leadership and advocacy for them. And all of you that are listening to me today need to start looking at how you can provide leadership and advocacy so that your skills can lead change in your community. It doesn't have to be global. It can be in your street. It can be in your local government area. It can be in your community. It can be amongst your friends. But you must start to look at leadership and advocacy as a way of changing your community. You must look at pathways to create economic independence by providing and ensuring and demanding that there must be vocational and professional skills training. And we must ensure, and I'm going to say it again, that countries are implementing inclusive educational policies so that the outcomes for students with disability has a ripple effect for economic participation and community leadership. This is the first stage of empowerment. And as people with disability, let's not leave it for other people to do. Let's get involved. Let's be at the forefront of making this change. Then, as individuals, we're talking about the self-advocacy revolution, finding your voice. Ha, this is powerful. The self-advocacy revolution, finding your voice. Don't keep quiet. Build your confidence so that you can talk about your personal experiences and your needs. So you can talk about your personal experiences and your needs. Move from keeping quiet and express yourself. You must come together, build collective power, join with others facing similar challenges like yourself, and it makes your voice louder so that you can amplify impact and you can create support groups for yourself. It's not every day that we wake up that we feel strong. But if we're in a group, if one person is strong, the other person is weak, we can help each other. You must participate directly in community forums, government, all across Africa. We have people that are in power at the local government, at the local level. Let's engage them. Let's start asking them questions. Let's start telling them what we need. And let's help them also to develop programs and policies that are in our favor. And then you need to start using the frameworks which exist, understand them. The United Convention, the UN Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities demands that there must be accountability. Start claiming your rights, find your voice, and advocate for a revolution that will benefit you. The other thing which we have advantage these days is technology. How do we leverage technology for inclusion? Mobile technology is particularly transformative. We can communicate, we can learn, we can do financial transactions, we can work remotely, and we can engage with each other, even with people in the remote areas. So how can we start to use this kind of technology to help ourselves? Are you getting involved in your local innovation hubs and working towards building and helping people to build apps and affordable technologies designed specifically for African top context and needs? I am sure that your knowledge and your innovation will be particularly useful for people who are developing these things, if you are not developing them yourselves for people with disabilities in Africa, then you need to build your personal leadership capacity. And what that means is that you must sit down and say to yourself, what are my abilities? What talent do I have? What are my personal strengths? What do people around me, what do they need? How can I help them? And then write down and be clear and give yourself clear, achievable goals that allow you to provide short-term milestones, a long-term vision, and directs you to maintain focus and track progress. You must continuously pursue knowledge. Never stop. Believe me, I never stop. I get to learn. I learn. I learned through vocational training. I learned through formal education. I learned by reading. I developed technical skills and soft leadership competencies. And you must continuously find a way of learning and then build your network. Build relationships with other people. Don't be shy. Build relationships with organizations. Build relationships with people like yourself who can provide you support, opportunities, and collaborative partnerships for greater impact. So set your goals. Ensure you are continuously learning and build your network. Now, what is a personal development plan? We've talked about it. You must be able to have a plan that allows you to identify the various strengths and the various areas where you need to grow. You must recognize your own unique perspective and try and develop and get experience that is relatable so they become valuable assets for you. Create a plan of the kind of knowledge you need and the kind of capabilities you need for your chosen path. And look for opportunities and practical experience to develop those activities. Seek guidance. Look for mentorship. Look for people that you can talk to. I remember the last conversation, the last talk that we had. I made myself very open. My LinkedIn page was there and everything. And I said, anybody that wants to get in touch, wants to talk, wants to have conversations and all of that, let's have those conversations. You know, if I might not be able to have $1 million, but I'm sure there's a lot I have to contribute. And I'm sad to say that it was only one or two people that took me up on that and got in touch with me. So look for mentorship, look for connections. And when you get those opportunities, use it. Then try to begin to get involved in small leadership roles. Maybe it's in the village, maybe it's in your community, maybe it's in your estate, maybe it's in your group of friends. Maybe you can volunteer so that you can build confidence and gain experience in directing projects, working as a leader, working as a team player. To look at now, there are many ways in which you can get involved in these things. You can look for economic cooperatives. Those are community-owned enterprises, especially for people with disabilities, where people pool resources, share accommodation, create market access. You might look for groups that bring people together with similar disability to share practical solutions, like the group that I'm engaging with this morning. Provide emotional support, professional support, advocacy strategies. You might want to look for rural outreach programs, initiatives that you can get involved in that extend services to opportunities to people with disabilities in remote areas. You know, traveling training programs, mobile clinics, technology, remote support services, and everything. If you have access to the internet, all these things are available there for you. And I'm sure that if you reach out, you can get involved in a lot of these things and start to build your leadership for value skills. Now, in terms of policy and how these things impact you, you have to understand that what I'm talking about are your rights and you can get involved in it. 49 African countries have ratified the UN Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So there's a legal framework in 49 African countries for what I'm talking about. 29 of these countries have actually enacted legislation, but implementation remains inconsistent. So there is a need for people to get involved so that implementation can move from inconsistent to consistent. And 12 of these countries have disability representations in their parliament and in government positions. So the question I want to ask is, how many of you know whether your country has disability representation in parliament or in government positions? And are those quotas being fulfilled? If they're not, then that's a position for you. And as a percentage, about 3% of the average budget of the average Nigerian government, of the average African government, is allocated to disability inclusion across African government. So that every year, when you look at the budget, you will see that 3% of the national budget of all 49 countries is allocated to disability inclusion. Where is this money going? How are they spending it? Why don't you know where they're spending it? How are you monitoring it? How are you ensuring it's been spent properly? These are the things you need to understand. Now, ensure that people with disability are empowered. We talked about inclusive education with teacher training. There are tax incentives for employers, and there are funds for accommodation and for housing for people with disability in most of these countries. Do you know where that money is? There are funds for construction and developed retrofitting of buildings so that people for access can have access to buildings. There's healthcare and there's political participation. These are areas that you need to find out because these are the things that will empower you. Then if you look at media, what is the visibility and the representation of people with disabilities in media and public life? How many reporters? How many producers? How many on-air personalities, radio, TV, people living with disability? That's your opportunity. That's an area where you can get involved in to start to ensure that the public understands what your challenges are, and it includes representation. If you look at media, that is where you can shift attitude from pity to respect and inclusion. It moves you beyond stereotypes to show that you are complex and capable individuals. It allows people with disabilities to tell their own stories. So why are we not more involved in the media? Online blogs. Why are we not doing podcasts? Why are we not doing influencer advocacy on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook? These are many ways and many areas that we can get ourselves involved in. Now, I believe I'm going to just skip this part because I don't think it's necessary. So if we look at digital inclusion as a catalyst, what it will provide is improved employment, better access to the world out there, enhanced social interaction, and greater independence. So digital inclusion as a catalyst for empowerment and leading with value is key. Then if we look at the Pan-African disability movement, which is a growing continental movement, where people are starting to connect with each other, where the strategies are being shared, where there's collective influence building with organizations like the African Forum, creating platforms for coordination, knowledge access and exchange, amplified advocacy. The Pan-African approach enables a more effective engagement with continental bodies like your own body, with African Union and regional economic communities, so that we can start having a harmonized disability rights framework and implementation mechanisms that empowers people with disability to give them the ability to lead with value. Do you know, the fact is that a lot of the work, you will have to lead it because you have what it takes, because you are the ones that are experiencing the challenges. We must look for family and community support. So families need to be trained so they understand what you're going through. Communities need to be made aware so that they understand what needs to be done, the inclusive attitudes, the media programs, and the kind of curricula that needs to be fostered so that they can support you. We need to connect families and individuals with disabilities to each other so that they can share experiences, solutions, encouragement, reduce isolation, and build collective resilience. We need to start working with religious leaders, Muslim, Christian, whatever, to promote the theological perspectives that ensure that there's accessibility in worship and community activities. Now, I want to just round up. So, the call to action in terms of leadership and empowerment, the call to action is we must build the future together. At the individual level, please embrace your potential, develop your skills, and step into those leadership opportunities that challenge you. From the community level, you must advocate and get involved in creating inclusive spaces in terms of work, social interaction, play. You must challenge any stigma, and you must support disability-led initiatives. You must get involved at whatever level, even if it is the level on your street, and start to ask for frameworks that provide you your rights and meaning. The path towards empowering yourselves and giving coordinated action at multiple levels. But believe me, together, we can build an Africa where leadership by people with disabilities will transform societies. It will transform economies. It will transform the way we govern, and we will have greater justice and opportunity for all. The journey actually begins with recognizing the immense leadership potential waiting to be unleashed inside of you. Thank you.